A story born 100 years ago of a noble man whose life is worth reliving and looking back to.
He's the only president with a national...
Little by little, the truth will come out.
Well,
I'm glad that you have asked me to join this conversation so that at least we can somehow correct the distortions of history.
I am very grateful to you.
And I'm willing to challenge anybody here in this country to debate with me about the events.
We put this together really because of the mail that I have been receiving in my social media. And the millennials have a different approach, it seems, to the events of history, the history of your lifetime for that matter. And the millennials seem to want to know what it is behind the decisions that my father and the members of his government made in his time, in the time of the Marcos administrations. And so we thought the best, most authoritative...
President Marcos would declare for the first time what is now known as the Calayan Group of Islands as subject to the sovereignty of the Philippines.
The President also wanted a negotiation with the United States about the termination of parity in 1974.
Yung ginawa ni President Park Chung-hee sa May Korea ay yung strategy ni President Marcos na ang pinakamataas na level of development ng Pilipinas over the last 50 years ay nung panahon ni President Marcos, specifically during the earlier years of martial law.
His story is a story of wisdom and goodwill, a story of a visionary leader with a strong political will who realized the Filipino potential and propelled the nation to progress.
Mr. Marcos provided a lot.
What is the biggest fallacy that the young people now are being fed about the reasons behind and the actual events of martial law?
They claim that we killed a lot of people, and that's why when I was interviewed by someone some time ago, I challenged her. Name me one that we executed, what we killed other than Lim Seng.
What was the accusation? Was that the summarily
that
executed?
we had 70,000
I hear
persons
those
arrested,
numbers too,
which
Tito.
which was not true. Maybe if they will include the people who violated curfew and the jaywalkers, maybe you can reach that number.
But anyone who was...
People can go out at night, they can go out and fish, they can go out to farm, they can go out. They were free, in fact. Of course, if you are to farm, they can go out. They were free, in fact. Of course, if you are a member of the rebel group or a warlord or who violated a criminal law, you have to be arrested, whether you have martial law or not.
It sometimes, I'm mystified sometimes by the lack of understanding of the simple fact that if you attack the government, you attack the state needs to defend itself.
Of course.
And that's why fighting would break out. And that's
name me one person that was arrested because of political or religious belief during that period. None.
They were all for criminal acts.
Name me one person that was arrested simply because he criticized President Marcos. None.
Maybe you could explain to these young people the approach that you took to governance. Kasi Tito, I remember when I was young, I would listen to my father's speeches and lagi kong naririnig the phrase nation building. And I have not heard that phrase since 1986. And it does not seem to be the priority or the guiding principle in governance anymore.
You mentioned about nation building, which was a battle cry of the Marcos government.
That's right, Tito.
That was all included in the national plan that was prepared by the brain trust of your dad, and that covers infrastructure, agriculture, energy, infrastructure, agriculture, energy, and education. And that's why when we started with agriculture, he established irrigation canals, especially in the north and in many parts of the country. And then he went into electrification. The national electrification that we have started with your father. He started the geothermal sources of energy in the country to date, which is helping the economy. And then later on, as a part of his national plan, education of the people. And that's why he created the system of state universities that expanded the educational system in the country and made education cheaper for the people. And so many others. He introduced land reform. That's why he was very conscious of.
This is one of the elements that pushed the government towards the declaration of martial law
Yes.
in 72.
Apart from the fact that indeed there was a need of it, because what was the social condition of the land at this point? We were dealing with separatism in Mindanao. We were dealing with a very strong communist party. We were dealing with the onset of drugs menace in the country. We were dealing with political warlords over the land, and the high criminality in the land. And what was our instrument of power at that point? We had only less than 50,000 in the armed services. That included the constabulary, the army, the air